I'm going to take a drink of water, guys. My lips are getting parched. Oh, this is not going to work that well. Ah, it's frozen. Good heavens. Sorry, folks. This is very brief, but I'm rather parched. I should have started the show later because my lips are parched. Actually, my mouth and my lips were rather parched. I think when we look back at the year 2020, I think it will, hopefully, if we're really thinking correctly, 2020 will be the year of leftist hysteria, hyperbolic talk, and where the left really dug in and took its firebrand out on the people, and really vicious human beings came out of the woodwork, and they've been showing themselves. Once the internet, once people started to clap back against the racial identity left, that's when, and they started to clap back against their ideology. That's when they, like when companies and things like that started to pick up and get notice. That's, I think the first ad apocalypse happened around 2014, 2015, because they were saying they were giving out right-wing extremist content, and basically all it was doing was basically clapping back against the leftist ideology that's been given to Americans for years within the mainstream media, and they don't want you basically to answer back. But I wanted to get into this. There was a discussion between Hake, on the Hake report, between Hake and Fanatiq. And both men are rather stoic people. I don't know how radical left Fanatiq is. And I got to turn off my Discord because I don't want anything making noise. You guys want to come to the show, come over, but I cannot have that noise into the background. I think it doesn't do my show any good, and it doesn't help me with my thought process. But I had a few questions of Fanatiq, and I don't know whether or not he will answer those questions, but I wonder how he feels about the murder of white farmers in both South Africa and Zimbabwe. I used to have a show. It was called the No White Guilt Show. This was before the. This was actually before the even before the other gentleman went on the air with his No White Guilt Show. And oftentimes I would ask questions about that. And with definites within Zimbabwe, a lot of black collars would say they deserve it. They deserve what they get. And I think that is universal amongst many within the Black African diaspora, that whites who are living in Africa deserve what they get. And some of them, or many of them, one person who would call my show, he was a black person in England, and I think he was from the West Indies. And it's like, man, why do you choose to live amongst a people you think are deserving of death. It really kind of angered me. And I used to go on, there was a gentleman by the name of Leo Muhammad. He's a black British person. I believe he was either born in Ghana or the West Indies, but he immigrated around 12 to England. And he was heaping all kinds of praise for Robert Mugabe being in England. And it's like, I almost want to ask, why are you in England? What is the purpose of you there? And why should the British people accept you? I wonder if this kind of thing would ever, like, if a Korean person could go to Japan and basically talk how evil the Japanese people are, if he would be accepted. Or someone from Morocco could immigrate to Saudi Arabia and tell them how pathetic they were. And of course, in England, if you ever mention the grooming gangs, the Muslim grooming gangs, you completely get shut down. Leo Muhammad is speaker's corner, but Tony Robinson would get violently shut down physically by Antifa and by Muslim extremists. And of course, the Hebrew Israelites, they can go on any major street corner in America, but if someone from the if a group of people from the American Renaissance came on to many of these major street corners in America, or any conservative group of any kind, they will get shut down with violence. I hear work going on in the background. Hopefully nobody can hear this. But it's just my observation. And it is my belief that leftism hates white people and people of European descent because they have one standard for them, and other people can have all, they don't have to obey those standards. People can speak all kinds of ill will against us, and we can never say anything, any grievances that we have. The perfect example, you have a guy named, I believe it's Dr. Rashard Ritchie, and he has an episode called I Wish a Karen Would. Put that with Colin Flaherty, and he would talk about the fellas, and he would talk about black on white and black on everybody, racial hostility. But his first book was White Girl Bleed a Lot. And people who reviewed the book never really acknowledged the type of statistics in the book. And then when he got on YouTube and he would document the things that happened, well, he got removed. But you have people like Tariq Nasheed, you have Dr. Rashad Ritchie. And they are absolutely allowed to speak. But getting back to the Hake and Fanatiq, and I have that description in below, and I know not many people listen. And I'm going to give a few shekels to the Hake Report and to Jesse Lee Peterson's show Bond. And hopefully people cannot hear what is going on in the background, because there is hammering going on. in the background, and they have every right to do that. But I wish it wasn't happening now because it's hurting my concentration a little bit. And Mandy says there's 2 minutes left before this show ends. Yay. Now, why would you say that, Mandy? Mandy, why would you say there is 2 minutes left before this show ends? What is your point on that? She doesn't like when I talk about racial issues. I do that primarily because it's the one thing that we cannot talk about, and the one thing that is, I think it's one of the things that I am rather passionate about. We have. Oh, she says because my show. But why would you be happy that it's ending? You should be. Oh. You said there is 2 minutes left before the show ends. Yay. That's indicating happiness. And that's fine. And she says, I don't care to like or dislike my shows. And that's fine. People don't have to like or dislike my shows. And they don't have to like or dislike me personally. That's on them. I do prefer, I hopefully prefer to have an open and honest conversation on things. And I try not to be angry about certain things, but I do get upset when I see hypocrisy and I see gaslighting, because that is what abusers do, and leftists do that best. They gaslight, and they do all forms of hypocrisy. And I want to mention, she says, I need a puppy. I'm not going to get a puppy. I live in an apartment. That's so silly. But I wanted to mention that I was talking to Mandy about England. Now, Mandy has visited England, but again, I think that you can visit a place and still, have some rose-colored glasses on and not deal with the reality of the situation in England. Because I've talked to British people too, and I don't even know if she knows who Tommy Robinson is, but he was a man defamed and maligned. You've lived, but again, I wonder. You didn't answer my question. Yeah, you live there, and you live there as an expatriate, and you're probably a little bit on the lefty side on that. And I might have different. I might come off with different perspectives and different opinions, but I think woke leftism is all over the Anglosphere, and woke leftism censorship is all over the Anglosphere. Mandy, you try to cut me off and don't like what I say, so you're picking a side when you do that. If I were black and I were talking about black issues, you probably wouldn't. Well, maybe you would. Maybe you would. I take that back. But I just know that certain groups cannot discuss their grievances. You do well. That's true. You never cut me off. So I'm having a conversation with Mandy. She's my the only person on my show right now, and I don't know if this is interesting to anybody or this or that. But I have enough money where I can travel to England. I don't know if I will or not. Anyway, some of the things that she's saying, I'm not really jiving with. But I did leave a description in the show about the show that I'm commenting on. I don't know if I will enjoy it. She said, travel, I'll enjoy it. I've traveled before. I've traveled to different parts of the state, and I've been to Mexico. And as I said before, I was born in Germany on an American base. My parents were world travelers. My mother had been in Morocco, and my father had been throughout Europe. And I want to welcome Donnie Armour. He's also been on the Hake Report, and that's where I discovered him from. And there are things that I agree with donning armor, and there are things that I perhaps would disagree. But my opinion is this: the left hates white people, and they hate people of European descent. That's, to me, is very clear, and that's not just true in America. That is true throughout the European diaspora, and the European diaspora within the Anglosphere. That's what I observe, is that the left absolutely despises and hates you. I remember I posted something on my Facebook page about the grooming gangs in England, and I got some people got very vicious towards me. I was in a Discord chat, and I mentioned Kyle Rittenhouse, and someone really came at me very viciously. And the left is extremely vicious with their hate. One of the most vicious stories that I can think of right now is Jacob Gardner, a Marine who was attacked and defended himself with a gun, and then was driven to poverty and then to suicide by the left. And I think that the right would be smart to bring this issue out and show the hatred. You know, I welcome the hatred that the left brings forward, because it shows who they are. I think these social media companies, there should be the information superhighway, and show the hatred and the viciousness for who they are. They dance, you know, Senator, I can't remember her name, but she practically danced on his grave and danced on his memory. A man who was driven to suicide, because poverty will, you know, certain types of poverty will drive you bad, and loss of financial security will really hurt you. Yeah, there were, well, yeah, I would call him an ex-Marine, but this was a former Marine. He did nothing, in my opinion, wrong. It was a clear-cut case of self-defense, and the mob went to his home. And I'm going to try to see if I can find that person's name here. Senator Megan Hunt. She was part of the. She was of Nebraska. State Senator Megan Hunt. And she was part of the mob that helped, I believe, with the prosecutor that went to the prosecutor's house and threatened him, and then he basically made him, you know, basically prosecute him, and then all of the crowdfunding sites did not allow him on for him to get a vigorous defense, and he was driven to financial ruin, and then he ended up committing suicide. And that is the left. That is, in my opinion, the radical left in this country, and they hate you. They hate you. And if you get into a dispute and you defend yourself, they will come at you, and they will come at you in the worst and most vicious possible way. And that's my absolute belief. They despise and hate you. And I think that that the Anglosphere, you know, how should you respond to people who hate and despise you? How should you respond? How should England respond to Black Lives Matter? Those people that tear down statues, who are foreign born, our parents are foreign born, who tear down statues and spit on the memory of the English people? How should they respond to that, Mandy? Why shouldn't they expel them out of their country if they're going to disrespect them? They would never do this in Japan. And 40 or 50 years ago, they would never behave this way. But they do it now. I was watching a Black Lives Matter in England, and there was a guy from South Africa. South Africa should be the woke capital of the world. Why is he in England? I also believe that where you go and where you travel, you are telling everyone that it is a superior place than where you're from. You're admitting that by your actions. And let me see this. Brandon Ramirez was a badly circumcised, and his mom was informed to treat him like a female all his life. But nature took over. Oh, Jesus, I'm not even going to. The doctor had to have been a leftist. And he says, I don't think Trump intended to expose it, but he did. Well, yeah, I don't think he did either. But I remember when Trump was looking into the situation of South Africa, and they said that it was a white supremacist dog whistle. And really, it's a Marxist dog whistle. When they say dog whistle, it's really a Marxist dog whistle to deflect and basically not have people of European descent their day in the public court, their day of due process. Because if this really is a white, if the murder of white South Africans, or the murder of whites in South Africa, the murder of white farmers in South Africa really is a dog whistle, prove it. Prove it. Have the same kind of Senate hearings and congressional hearings that we had during apartheid. Why can't we have the same thing? And the same thing would go for Zimbabwe. Can we mention these things? I would love for Colin Flaherty to speak before Congress. If we're going to have people like Black Lives Matter speak before Congress, why don't we have Colin Flaherty talk? We should have a White Girl Bleed a Lot association. Americans have so many they should expel from their own country, never mind these countries. Well, again, Mandy's been invited many times to come on my show, and she has a few times. But I think people's well-being is important, no matter their race, and people have the right to good well-being, both psychologically and physically, and they have a right to fair play, and they have a right not to be hated. And wherever leftism basically holds up its head, whites are hated. And there isn't hatred in Thailand. There isn't the kind of hatred in South Korea, and even in parts of Latin America. I don't think there's hatred as badly for whites as there is where leftism has taken place, because leftism basically protects certain forms of racial ideology, and on one side of the aisle, and you are not allowed to have any grievances. And that's what I'd like to ask I'd like to ask Mr. Fanatiq that question. Does he believe that many blacks have racial vendettas against whites? And not only in America, but wherever the Black African diaspora and the European diaspora meet up, is there a level of vendetta that blacks have? And I would also say that perhaps even the Asians the Muslims have in England. It seems that way, and it seems that many other racial and ethnic groups have hatred of people of European descent. So he asked me my Telegram, is this the same as my YouTube? A question for you. Can one time throughout history where multicultural mixing did not cause violence? I always think that racial mixing, unfortunately, at this time, can cause animosity and violence, and there has probably not been a time. But we are far less violent today. And even though there is hatred for whites, I believe that we are far more civilized today. And I think the one thing we need to try is to have a civilized society. And those who don't want to be part of the civilized society can be gone. Those who don't believe in merit and civility and objectivity shouldn't want to be around those that believe in it. Those who believe in myopic nonsense and hyperbole should live on the other side. And I think that maybe the country could be. So yeah, I can't, and I gotta say, can you think of one where and I'm not that versed in history, but probably multiculturalism, just about every time it does add for human strife. And this human strife, censorship doesn't help the human strife and the human condition. And we need to have brutal honesty with one another. We need to sit down and have just brutal honesty about treatment all the way around. All the way around. And there's a lot of misinformation and lies out there on both and either side. I think today the right often tries to appease the left and the woke left, and we should never do that. I think that is the biggest mistake that we do. We should be upfront and blunt with them, and they should be able to be upfront and blunt with us. There should be a non-aggression principle. There should be no hitting or striking or anything like that. But human beings' well-being is a right, and if you interfere with my well-being, then by nature I'm not going to want to be around you. And Master of Rope says, I only care about Whitey. I care about my well-being. And I happen to be white, a white person I happen to be an American of European descent. I consider myself an American first. And my racial heritage, my race and my heritage isn't a problem unless you make it a problem. And the left has definitely made it a problem. And I've said this before, the left hates white people, not only in America, but throughout the civilized world. And leftism, I think, to a degree, seems to be a poison in this society. And I think perhaps the best thing to do with that is to really go against it and stand against it and let them talk. I always love it. When I had my No White Guilt show, I loved it when Hebrew Israelites called. I loved it when Black nationalists would call, because I'd say, This is what you have. This is what they think of you. They want nothing good for you. But I can't get that today. But I would love to have, I love it when black nationalists call up and spread their hate and tell me how much they despise and hate me, and how much they despise and hate people of European descent, because it proves my point. And with that being said, I wish you all the best. This has been Brian with Transparency and Merit. Like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. And Donning Armor, I will be inviting you on my show at some point. So hopefully we can have a discussion with Stoic Calm, you giving your opinion and I giving mine. I'd really enjoy that. Thank you for listening. And yeah, well, I would say be well too, Donning Armor. And be well, even those who disagree with me. I wish you to be well, both mentally and physically. I wish you the best in doing the best you can do. And I just disagree with Master of Rope. There is a left and there is a right. And if you don't see it, you're not being in any kind of reality. That's just my opinion. But Master of Rope has been on my show, and I do appreciate the fact that he has been on my show. Mandy has been on my show as well, but less so. I don't know why, but I don't think she likes my topics. Anyway, this has been Brian with Transparency and Merit. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thank you for listening.